Obviously, we know a lot of what is coming in Crimson Blaze, but there is still more on the horizon. What I want to do for you in this video is kind of break down each of the cards we saw, take a little more of an in-depth look at them, and give my rating on whether or not I think they will be good or bad or somewhere in between when the new set comes out. It's always exciting to kind of theory craft what's going to happen, and sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into it. Yeehaw, everybody. Let's just start with some cards that have future potential, but they're kind of hard to rate at this moment, right? So let's start with something like Latios. This card, 40 HP, a single energy to do 20 damage with rollout. It doesn't appear to be a very interesting card, but of course, the implications of what's coming in the future, the reunic list, like things like that, I'm excited to see that, but I don't think there's much like purpose in rating a card like this, other than saying I'm excited to see what else is in the set because of this card. I think the same can be said for something like Trubbish. I want to know what's going on with Garbodor. That's could be a powerful card, right? Especially if we have an EX version of this, but we also have many sets where there are cards like this and they just aren't super relevant, but the art is pretty cool. Obviously, everything in this set is based around research and the lab. Crown Rare Professor's research coming, I mean, it would destroy the black market for those cards, right? But this is going to be very, very interesting. However, again, there isn't much to say about it. I mean, 2 energy for 30 damage is bad. It's a bad card, but this is not the reason you are playing this card. The first card that I think we can give a rating to is this Ditto here, the original Ditto that we have in the game. In fact, let's talk about the original Ditto real quick. Heading all the way back to Genetic Apex, we have the OG Ditto with 1 colorless energy. You could choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. If this Pokemon doesn't have the necessary energy to use the attack, it does nothing. This includes the exact color energy needed, right? So you need fire energy to copy an attack that has fire energy on the other side. This card was used a few times in tournaments in a cheesy way, but was essentially completely useless. Now let's talk about New Ditto. New Ditto is very similar. It has less HP, but you choose one of your benched Pokemon attacks, not an EX Pokemon, by the way, and you can use it as this attack. It needs the exact necessary energy, etc., etc., but it's so much easier to control something like this happening, and I'm really excited to see a card like this and see what different decks people could cook up to have some really cool effects, right? There are of course a lot of cards that are in sets right now, like you think of something like Ludicolo that does 120 depending on how many cards are in your hand for only 2 energy, and on and on. There are other cards that you could get some pretty good use out of, especially if you have something that's generating a lot of energy and you don't have a crazy strict energy requirement for it, or the deck is only running 1 energy. What I mean by that is, let's say you have a deck that's generating, multiple types of energy inside of it, and the attacks you're going to try to copy are colorless or something like that, or they only require 1 energy type that's specific. It could be a lot easier to copy those attacks. I still think this is probably going to be cheesy, but there will be some really cool decks built with this. For that reason, I'm going to give this 3 coin flips out of 5. Next, we have Sunflora, a stage 1 Pokemon, 100 HP with the ability Quick Grow Beam, 30 damage, and 30 more damage if Quick Grow Extract is in your discard pile. There are a couple ways you could play with this, right? You could, instantly use Quick Grow Extract, which I'll talk about here in a minute. You can't use it on the first turn or the turn you play your Sunkern, but if you turn 1 your Sunkern, you don't have Sunflora in hand, you Quick Grow Extract, boom, that card is now in the active spot, and you're swinging for 60. Not too bad for a single energy. However, I do think something like this is cheesier oftentimes than it is good. It's a lot of moving parts, right? So you need a basic in your deck, you need the stage 1 in your deck, you need to have used Quick Grow Extract, then you, with all of these things together, you can do 60 damage. Yes, it's only a single energy, and there could be some cool stuff with that, but you do have to think there are other cards that allow you to do a similar amount or more damage with a different, albeit a very different setup. But just when you look at another stage 1 Pokemon, for instance, something like Silvally, obviously a very powerful card, it does require 2 energy, but it does considerably more damage. It's sort of a different way to get to doing a lot of damage. We'll have to see. I think this is going to be kind of middle of the road, but it's aggressive, it's fast. You don't need to use your Quick Grow Extract on the Sunkern, right? You could be using it on your Bulbasaur to go to Ivysaur, Venusaur. So I do think there are some routes where this is actually pretty decent, but so far I'm going to say another middle of the road one. This will be 3 coin flips out of 5. The new Spritzy card, 60 HP, a single energy will heal 20 damage from one of your Pokemon. I mean, it's nice to have a little healing right there, but this feels like mostly not very useful. The question is, will the new evolution that we get in this set be pretty good? Do we have an EX coming for this? It could be an interesting setup, but right now there isn't much to say about it. I mean, it's fine, but we need to know what this means for the future. Mareep, it's a promo Mareep, 1 energy to do 10 damage with rear kick. It's a promo card. They're cool and they're pretty, but they don't mean much. 2 coin flips. I don't know, 1 coin flip. It doesn't matter. Heliolisk could actually be kind of a cool card. It's a stage 1. It requires 2 energy, right? But it does 120 damage. This could be a card that you use to finish off certain Pokemon in the meta, or you could do a huge burst of damage, right, to a lot of the meta. If Suicune still, you know, is a prominent member of the meta, obviously this is a one-shot on it without Cape. It is pretty nice to do 120 damage, but you are probably doing this damage and then losing Heliolisk. The cool thing about this also, of course, with a lightning deck is you could use something like Elemental Switch, so you could power this, do your damage, discard your energy, but have more lightning energy on the bench, able to swing again. 120 is pretty dang considerable for only 2 energy. I'm going to go ahead and give this 3.5 coin flips out of 5. I think the thing that slows it down is I just don't know how often you are going to fit this into a ton of decks. And with it being a promo card, oftentimes promo is not great. I want to quickly talk here about Charmander, 2 energy for 40 with 60 HP. As well as Bulbasaur, 1 energy for 20 with 60 HP. And we also have Squirtle, 70 HP, 2 energy for 40. These cards don't really matter to me that much. I mean, I think what's really interesting in this set, outside of the EXs, which we're going to get to here in just a moment, I think what's really interesting this set are the stage 1s. I want to talk about Charmeleon. This is the only stage 1 that we see so far in this set of our 3 megas that we have, right? Our 3 big Kanto starter megas. 80 HP. But the big thing here is the ability Ignition. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you may take a fire energy from your energy zone and attach it to your active fire Pokemon. There are a lot of different ways this card could be very, very useful. Obviously, if you're evolving into Charmeleon in the active spot, that could be pretty dangerous if you're trying to get into Megazard. But getting an extra energy onto Charmeleon could be really nice. It does 50 damage on steady fire breathing. Not incredible, right? But I do think a huge, reason you would be running this Charmeleon is just to generate this energy and move into Megazard. I am also really interested after seeing this as to what the Wartortle and Ivysaur are going to look like in this set, because it actually could change the viability a bit of Blastoise and Venusaur. But this is a really good card. I think one thing that's could be really powerful for this, you might be running, Mega Charizard in an Entei deck or something like that. Something that can draw through your deck and try to get you all of the components you need for it. The cool thing about this is just getting an extra fire energy to whatever's in the active spot, whether it's Entei, whether it's Heatmore, depending on what you're building, that gives you an extra turn where you can power this Charmeleon, right? So even though the energy might not be going to this Charmeleon in the active spot, because you don't need to put another energy on Entei before it can attack and, Heatmore otherwise, this means the turn that you are playing the Charmeleon, it is a lot easier for you to power that Charmeleon on the bench. So while it is not directly extra energy for this exact card for Megazard, it is in line with that, right? And I do think that's incredibly powerful. We might actually be seeing a really, really strong slew of stage 1s in this new set. That does a few interesting things. One thing it does is it makes rare candy kind of less valuable, and because rare candy is less valuable, it also makes something like Chingling a lot less valuable, right? You think of like a a stage 2 Pokemon that loves its stage 1, Magneton, right? You would never not want to be Magneton for a lot of the Magnezone decks. So if you have Magneton in your deck, you get that extra energy. That's amazing. Charmeleon isn't doing exactly that, but it is providing extra energy to your set one time when you play it. That is very, very powerful. And we're going to have to see how relevant that is moving forward. I think it could be extremely relevant. Again, it could make rare candy less exciting. And because of that, it also could make Chingling not as good, and on and on and on. Like, huge meta ramifications to wanting to run a stage 1 rather than just skipping over it with rare candy. For that reason, I'm going to give this 4.5 coin flips out of 5. It's not a perfect card, like it doesn't one-shot or a Choreo or something like that, but I feel like this is an incredibly strong card, and it gets me really excited for future stage 1 cards in this set. We're going to get to our megas here in just a moment, as well as our promo mega Latios. Before that, I want to talk about some of our supporter cards. We have Serena. The amount of times I will say Sabrina instead of Serena, I mean start a counter right now because it's going to be insane. Serena, put a random Mega Evolution Pokemon EX from your deck into your hand. Incredibly powerful. You are trading one card for one card, but you are fishing out the, the prize catch, the legendary fish. This is important for your deck, and I could see a lot of decks running this one card, right? If you just can't seem to find your Mega Zard, Mega Ampharos, Mega Altaria, I mean, this is perfect. Also, when you think of a deck like a Mega Altaria deck, when it only needs a stage 1, how dang strong is a card like this? I would say there's going to be 4 coin flips out of 5. Not every single deck will run this, of course, but I could imagine wanting a copy of this for sure. The one issue with this card is, if you already have your Megas, it is a full-on brick, and again, you're trading one card for one card, which isn't always as good, right? When you think of something like Lucia, if you have multiple Pokemon under the HP threshold, that's trading one card for 2. Copycat could be trading one card for a ton, right? So I do think this will be less useful than some of those cards in ways, but it's guaranteeing the big bad that you need to kind of win the round sometimes. Could be a really powerful card. Next, we have Clement. This is a really interesting one. So it puts 2 random cards from among Magneton, Heliolisk, and Clement's backpack, which we don't know exactly what that's going to do, right? Into your deck. We know about the promo Heliolisk, so it could be kind of the same thing, that's the promo version. And we do know about the current Magneton that we have that is insanely good. Obviously, this does mean that we have a new Magnezone coming in the set, maybe Magnezone EX, right? So this could be a crazy good card. One thing for sure is it's already great for Magnezone decks. You could literally use this one card and pull both of your Magnetons. That's insanely good. So right away, I'm going to say this is 4.5 coin flips out of 5. It's, of course, insanely specific, and I really want to know what the Clement's backpack is like. But holy, what a great card. I mean, it just guarantees 2 insane cards put into your hand. That is incredible. Next, we have the Quick Grow Extract. It is an item. You choose a grass Pokemon, and you put a random Pokemon from your deck that evolves from that Pokemon on it to evolve it, and you cannot use this card the first turn or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn, right? So you can't put Bulbasaur down and then immediately Quick Grow Extract right into Ivysaur. You cannot do that the first turn you do it. The cool thing about this card, obviously, is it is not only giving you an evolution, right? It is giving you the direct evolution that you need. So, imagine that you play Professor's Research and you want to get to Mega Venusaur, but you pull both of your Mega Venusaurs, you don't have your Ivysaur, you don't have a rare candy or something like that. This kind of takes that away, specifically, of course, for grass decks. It's gonna, the tricky part with any of this is, are grass decks going to be that viable? I do think there are a lot of cards this could work with in a really cool way. I think if you are running a Venusaur deck, you're probably going to run this. This could work really well for Exeggutor as well. This could work really well for like Lilligant, which you might be adding to a lot of your Venusaur decks. So I think this is a really cool card. It's insanely grass specific. Obviously, I don't know if any other type is going to have something like it, but you could have some real powerful situations with it. The big drawback, of course, is it only works for one type. And unlike a rare candy or something like that, you're not going from a basic to a stage 2. I'm going to give this 3.5 coin flips out of 5, but in certain grass decks, it could be unbelievably strong. Now let's talk about our megas, starting with Mega Latios EX. This is a promo mega that is supposed to come like mid-January, I want to say. It requires 3 energy. 2 of them water, 1 of them psychic, to do 160 damage. We know it has no weaknesses because it is a dragon type. We don't yet know its retreat cost. I hope it's 1, honestly. HP 180. I would just say my impression of this is it's quite bad. Like almost every promo EX they've ever had. My impression of it is it's very bad, and I don't like it. I'm giving it 1 coin flip. Look, maybe I'm being too harsh on this. It just seems awful to me. It costs you 3 points. You have to have 2 different kinds of energy. It only does 160. And I say only 160 because you lose all of your energy on it. So, gosh, you better be getting a lot done with this 1 attack. I don't know. It's seems awful. Genuinely, I don't like being down on it, but it does seem pretty bad. I guess you could use it as a final hit if you want to run a chaotic spread of energy. I don't know. No, I don't like it. I just bad. Next, let's talk about Mega Venusaur EX. So we're getting into the Kanto Megas here, and I do think there's a lot to unpack with these cards. First off, let's just talk about Mega Venusaur. We don't know about Ivysaur yet, but I'm really excited to see these stage 1s for Wartortle and Ivysaur after seeing Charmeleon. Mega Venusaur EX, 240 HP, which is huge. It requires 4 energy, 2 of it being grass, so you could run this in other decks that, generate other forms of energy, right? You could have, for instance, like a Mantike in your deck, and you're generating water energy at the start of your turn, throwing that back to your bench, etc. However, when you do get 4 energy on it, you are going to be able to deal 120 damage, as well as apply 2 status conditions to your opponents, outside of things like, something with a metal coat, or no, it's not metal coat, steel apron. I always want to call it metal coat. Something with a steel apron or Arceus or something like that. These cards will be poisoned and they will be put to sleep. So they get 2 status conditions at the same time, which is pretty good. The poison, obviously, you're going to be doing 10 damage in between each round, for each checkup. And then asleep, for each checkup, they're going to flip a coin. If it is heads, they wake up. If it is tails, they stay asleep. There are a few different ways to cleanse both of these effects. Of course, moving the Pokemon back to the bench will cleanse the effect. If they're asleep, there are still some ways to do that, but it becomes trickier. So this sets up situations where oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes you will force your opponent to at least 50-50 as to whether or not they can do really anything in that active spot. Of course, it doesn't matter too much if you're not able to attack something extremely bulky with that 120. So, you get it into that active spot and you're fighting a Silvally or something like that. Doesn't really matter that they're asleep and poisoned. They're already KO'd, right? But for a lot of other cards, if you get it into the active spot against Mega Blaziken, well, it would be really nice to put that Pokemon to sleep. The poison damage could also help a little bit. Because of this, we could see metas where things are being run like more Pokemon Center Lady to deal with some of these status conditions. Pokemon Center Lady! We could even use that card that never got any use. What is it? It's like a little biscuit from Celestial Guardians, and I'm forgetting the name of it. Hold on, now it's gonna drive me crazy. I gotta find it. Big Malasada. I could not remember this for the life of me. So you would heal 10 damage and remove a special condition from your active Pokemon. The interesting thing about this is it is a random special condition from your active Pokemon. So there actually is a reality where this doesn't help you that much against 2, right? Like if you don't flip to cure the sleep and then you use this and you only cure the poison, you're kind of like kicking yourself. So maybe even still you don't use this. Possibly a Lumberry could be useful. Yeah, Lumberry right here. I was like scrolling through for a minute trying to find this card. Lumberry, by the way, shout out to PokemonZone.com. That's where I usually am like checking out all this stuff. Lumberry, at the end of each turn, if you have any special conditions, it recovers from all of them. Even still, I mean, you'd have to assume you're getting hit with special conditions. Venusaur would have to become incredibly meta for you to run something like this. So I do think Mega Venusaur seems okay. The 4 energy is a bit of a bummer, but the HP is really nice. Of course, being a grass type, there are also other things that could be really good for it. You can use the new evolution card that we talked about moments ago. You can use a Leaf Cape, bringing this up to 270 HP. You also can pair this with something like Lilligant. I mean, this could become an extremely tanky monster with a Leaf Cape and 2 Lilligants. I mean, the setup for this would be insane. You could have a ludicrous amount of HP, right? You could have 310 HP. It would be insane. It's almost impossible, but you could make Raid Boss Venusaur with something like this. I feel like how long it would take to set up will probably never be worthwhile to have all of that going on, but hey, what if it happened? I think out of the 3 megas, this one I feel like to me is the more this is in like sort of the better category if we're looking at good, better, best. This is kind of the middle one of the 3 in my opinion. The tough thing about it is, well, we'll talk about Charizard later, but the tough thing about this is Mega Charizard. 240 or even with Leaf Cape, 270 HP does mean that it will take a long time to KO this thing. However, there are multiple meta threats that could get it in 2. So it is a little tricky, but I do think it has an insane amount of HP, and if you could get it powered up in time, that would be nice. The other thing that's tough about this one, I will say, is when you see a something that requires 4 energy, of course your thought is, how am I going to get 4 energy on this? And there are ways to do it. I know some people could go, well, what about Superior? You get Superior online, you only need 2 energy to attack. That's true, but now you're running 2 stage 2s in a deck, which can be really, really hard, right? So I think this one is going to be good. I'm going to give this one 3.5 coin flips, maybe even closer to 4. Like, I think it's good, and I think once you get it online, it will be very powerful and tough to take down for most decks. So maybe it's fair to give this one 4 coin flips. Next, we have Mega Blastoise, 230 HP, Stage 2, evolving from Wartortle. Again, Ivysaur, Wartortle, really interested. For only 3 energy, you're going to attack with Triple Bombardment, 2 of the energy being water. It does 130 damage. Now, if you have at least 3 extra water energy attached, it will do 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And the way this would read to me is, if they only have 1, you do 50 damage to it, so it's not like it will do that again. I could be totally wrong about that, and I would like happily be corrected in the comments, but I believe you would have to have 2 separate ones for it to do that damage. And of course, if they have no benched Pokemon, then no extra damage no matter how much water energy you have. This is the 130 for 3 isn't the worst thing in the world, right? If you think about something like Arceus, or you think about something like Mega Altaria has less HP, however, it does require 1 less energy, and it's a stage 1, but it can also do 130 damage with its own requirements, right, of having a full bench. So I wouldn't say this is terrible, but I also don't think it's stellar either. Like 3 energy, 130 isn't awful, and with most things in the game, you are going to 2-shot them. The extra effect, essentially the actual triple bombardment, I think will be extremely difficult to pull off. Getting that much water energy on a Pokemon will be tough. There, of course, are options. There are things like Misty. You can generate water energy with things like Manaphy. It's possible that Wartortle will help this in some way. But getting 6 energy on a Pokemon is hard. That's just really, really hard. But when you do, It's really difficult to one-shot this thing. It does have a 3 retreat cost, so like Venusaur, it could wear a cape. It couldn't wear a leaf cape, but it could also wear that new helmet that we got in the most recent set. And with that, it would take -20 from attacks. Venusaur can as well, by the way, for whatever it's worth, because it has a 4 retreat cost. So you've got a couple cool options with this card. I don't think it's completely useless, but it definitely feels a bit underwhelming, I think, compared to the other two, because to really get the big benefit of its attack, you need an absurd amount of energy on this. This is my lowest rated mega of the 3 Kanto megas. I'm going to give this 3 coin flips. I don't think it's terrible. I think its HP is really considerable. And again, 130 for 3 isn't awful. And if you can keep this in the active spot for a while, you may be able to power it up in multiple ways to get this thing swinging for even more and really mess with your opponent's bench. I can't wait to get it online, but to me, it feels like the weakest of the 3. Finally, we have to talk about Mega Charizard Y. This is the hero of the pack. It's right there front and center, and it's for good reason. 220 HP, so the smallest of the 3 that we've looked at so far, these 3 Stage 2 Kanto Megas. However, its attack is the most powerful attack in the game. I mean, essentially, you could say something like Lickitungs could be more powerful, and on, but you get what I'm saying. This is essentially the strongest attack in the game. Almost, outside of a few rare exceptions, one-shotting everything in the meta, right? Crimson Dive for 4 energy, 3 of it being fire, does 250 damage plus 50 damage to itself. So the punishment for KOing almost everything in the game is going to be that it hurts itself. However, if you have Mega Charizard on your bench, or you know your Charizard is being powered up, you are essentially setting up a reality where your opponents cannot bring their Mega into the active spot, right? The only way they would be able to bring their Mega in the active spot is if somehow they could disrupt the energy on Charizard and bring it to the active to hit it twice, right? Or you bring Venusaur into the active spot, you hit it, you pray for the 50-50 on the sleep, right? Like, there are a few ways to deal with this, but in general, if you have a Mega and you see Mega Char Y on the other side, you are cooked. You cannot get your Mega in the active spot. You just can't. You're going to have to use other Pokemon to chip at Mega Char. You'll have to wall with something like Oricorio, which I think, you know, the more powerful EX Pokemon there are, the more powerful Oricorios get. Like, that card feels like it will never be bad, ever. Mega Char, though, feels like the best Mega in the set. I'm going to give it 5 coin flips. I feel like it will for sure be a meta card. However, I still do think there will be a lot of cards that will compete with it very well. I still think Altaria decks could do quite well, just not the same. I think Greninja will still be insanely relevant, especially with how important it will be to grab Charizard, Charmeleon, Charmander before they are ready to go so that you can KO these Pokemon. But if you let your opponent set up and they're able to insulate this Charmander all the way to Mega Char and it gets its energy on it, it's rough. It's going to be really rough, really difficult to take it down. And in fact, even when it attacks with Crimson Dive and does 50 damage to itself, there is still not a ton of Pokemon that are going to be able to one-shot it after that. Like, even when you look at the new Blastoise, it does 130 with weakness damage. That's only going up to 150, so you need to run red in your deck if you want to hit this in one. That's without Charizard having a cape or anything like that. So there are just a lot of ways that Mega Charizard not only can attack, but also not go down from a counter attack. So I just think this thing is insane. It's to be expected when it's like the thing on the front of the pack. Every time there's a thing on the front of the pack, by the way, you know, put that up there, because oftentimes the thing on the front of the pack ends up being pretty dang good. Like, if you look back through all the things like Secluded Springs, it's like, oh, Suicune's on the front of this thing. Triumphant Light, hey, Arceus is right there, and on and on and on. If you're on the pack, oftentimes, not always, but especially for these mini sets, it feels like, woo, you have to watch out for this thing. And I think Mega Char, to me, looks like far and away the best Mega in this set, clearly. And before we hop off of this video, I do want to talk about some cards that could be important with this new set. Like when you think about something like Mew EX, this is always one of those cards that has been really close and at times like kind of meta because of what it could copy. The more Mega Chars you see, the more powerful Mew EX is, right? Genome hacking for only 3 energy, 3 colorless energy, you could have this basic card in your deck that is a full counter to Mega Char. So as I talked about, your opponent not being able to play their Mega if you have Mega Char, the same thing is kind of going on. If you have Mew EX ready to go on the bench, your opponent cannot bring in Mega Charizard because you will now one-shot Mega Char. I think Mew could get a real glow up with this pack. I of course talked about this earlier, but I do just have to mention how powerful Magneton and, you know, the Space-Time Smackdown Magnezone is with it. The ability to generate its own energy is incredible, and now we have a card that is going to fish it out of the deck. We could see these decks become even more popular. However, depending on what kind of Magnezone we get in the new set, or if we get a Magnezone EX, this could be way relevant, like super relevant for some of those cards. But if it is a steel version of Magnezone and maybe it can't really benefit that much from the lightning energy, this won't be as big of a deal. However, I mean, a new supporter card that allows you to pull this card from the deck is incredible. Also, a card that I would just like to remind people of, Galarian Cursola, I still think is an incredible card here, and it does this really interesting thing where if any of these Megas are being moved into the active spot, you are able to 50-50 a game win against them. I do think something like this can still be pretty powerful in some Psychic decks, but more than that, I just kind of wanted to have a conversation about, we do see the 3 Megas, the 3 Kanto Megas, but we don't see anything for Pikachu and we don't see anything for Mewtwo. However, it could be possible given how many EXs we will see in this set. I don't know if there are any other Megas that we haven't seen yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if there were. Let me know what you think in the comments. What are you most excited about? What are you concerned with? And again, what do you think I just, you know, have a bad read on? What do you think is going to be a lot better or a lot worse than I think? Please let me know. Thank you all. I love you. Of course, new set is so exciting. We will be live for it and we will be streaming it and making tons of decks with it. It's always so exciting when a new set's dropping. Love you guys. We did it.